Hey guys, welcome back to the AIR Reptile Rescue. Today we're going to talk about beginner reptiles, or best reptiles for beginners. This part is going to be a two-part video. Uh, in this one, we're going to be talking about frogs. Really, any species is great for a frog. They don't need a lot of handling and care. They don't have to have a big enclosure. Um, they can live together. I don't recommend it personally because I feel that whenever you have your reptile or your amphibian in an enclosure, let it live by itself so it has more room to move, more room to do its own thing. Uh, One of the frogs that I recommend is a Pac-Man frog. I just like the way they look, how docile they are. We'll get more into that later. If you have questions about a certain species of frog, let us know below in the comment. Next, we're going to talk about the beginner snakes and why they're great to have for beginner reptile owners. The corn snake, their size and personality makes them a pretty good beginner snake. They're easy to care for. It's basically daily cleaning, daily handling. With daily cleaning, just make sure the water's clean and changed. Make sure there's no that they didn't use the bathroom in their enclosure. That you remove that out of there so they don't get sick from it. Really, just that kind of stuff. When they're born, they're about 8 to 12 inches. When they're adults, about 4 to 5 feet, depending on what species of corn snake you get. Like I said before, they're easy to handle. They're very docile. They're not like ball pythons where the ball python will just kind of wrap up around your arm and just kind of chill. They are a little bit more active, so do keep that in mind. They do want to move around more. They can live up to 20 years, so please keep that in mind. That say if you're 25 right now, you'll be 45 whenever that life expectancy for that snake is close to ending. Adult corn snakes can live in a 20-gallon. I always say go big or go home with any snake. The bigger the enclosure, the more room they have to move, the happier they are. Kind of like us whenever we buy a house. The bigger the house, the happier we are. We have more room to move around and do what we want. With them, they are kind of escape artists. With them being skinny, snakes at full grown, they will find any crack or crevice in their enclosure to escape. Please do keep your enclosure securely closed. If it means you don't have a locking lid or a locking door on the enclosure, weigh it down with something. If you have the doors on it and doesn't have a lock, I would recommend getting a small lock because each door will have a little hole in it. Get a small lock that's an exoterra that has like a little hoop to it that will go through it and you can lock it like that. That will be secure for your snake. Next, we're going to talk about the ball pythons. As you guys can see, Patty has joined us tonight. They are currently the most popular pet snake around. They're one of the reasons they are most popular is because of how docile they are, how much easier they are to handle after getting them from the stage of being shy at first. Whenever they're shy, it's more or less just, hey, you're bigger than me, I think that you're a threat, so I'm going to kind of like tuck away and I don't want to mess with, I don't know you yet. Work with them, daily handling, daily care of their enclosure, cleaning it out, making sure that they don't have any spots where they use the bathroom at, make sure that you change their water and they can see you doing it. Things like that will get them used to you reaching in there, handling them every day, about 30 minutes at least, I recommend. I do a lot more with Patty because she's more docile, she's more chilled out with me. But I recommend at least 30 minutes of handling. That will help the snake to understand you're not a threat to them, that you're actually there taking care of them. They, for a male ball python, they can get about 3 to 5 feet. For a female, they're going to be a little bit bigger, so they'll be about 4 to 6 feet. They can be heavy snakes. Please keep this in mind also. If you have children and you have a full-grown ball python, they can be, I would recommend 4.5 to 5.5 pounds. That would be a comfortable weight for me, especially with my children, because then I know they can actually hold it and not going to be too heavy for them to handle. With Patty here, she can live 30 to 50 years. Like I always say, be sure you're ready for that long commitment with these snakes. For a juvenile, as you guys know, I'm going to mention it, I'm going to reiterate it. I'm very adamant about this. I always put my snakes in the biggest enclosure so they can live out their full life in that enclosure. But a juvenile, they can live in a 20-gallon until they reach adulthood. Then at adulthood, I would really recommend a 40-gallon tank. With Patty, I already have her in a 40. She's comfortable. She moves around, does what she wants to. She's happy. They will build a bond and a trust with you the more you handle these guys. We're currently working with Xena, which is our other rescue, with the trust issues and stuff like that and being handled properly and trying to get her past that I'm afraid still stage. She does get aggressive and strike whenever she feels threatened, so we're working with her on that, but we'll include her in more videos later. She's still in a shed. Next, we're going to go to the king snakes and the California king snake. I'm not sure why they were considered different. I will do more research on why a certain one was called the California king and all the other ones are called king snakes. There are different species of these guys, so I will look into that more, and I'll mention it further in another series when we do king snakes alone. California king snakes are popular just like the corn snakes because they're small size and their lifespan. They'll live to be about 20 years old and can get up to 4 feet at adulthood. They are skinny snakes, so with your enclosure, please make sure, just like with the corn snake, they are very good escape artists. Make sure you're secured at all times on your enclosure. They will escape and they're hard to find because of how small they can be. Caring for them is pretty easy. It's basically the same thing, the daily handling, cleaning their cage, changing their water. Their daily care is basically the same as all snakes. As adults, they're recommended only a 20-gallon. Like I said, go big or go home. Really how I feel about my snakes. If I had a king snake right now, he'd be in a 40-gallon enclosure just because I want him with that extra room to move. As a baby, they can live in something as small as a shoebox. I don't recommend it at all. I just feel that's too small and too cramped for these guys. Please do keep that in mind, that the more room you give them, the better they will thrive in their environment. They're not very high maintenance snakes. I mean, their humidity and temperatures and all that we'll touch on in future videos when we get to that species. The next ones we're going to talk about is the rosy boas. They're extremely docile and easy to handle. They're also small snakes. Full grown, they're 2 to 4 feet. Pretty, they can be kind of thick, can be kind of thin, depending on the species that you get of the rosy boa and sand boa. I do want to mention sand boas, just like rosy boas, as babies, they like to burrow. That's basically their secureness. And they are known to nip. I was bitten by our sand boa whenever he was a baby, but that's because I went feeling around just to make sure I didn't put my hand down or move wrong and hurt him. And I barely touched the top of the substrate, and he must have thought it was time to eat, and he grabbed my hand. They don't hurt. It's basically like you stick yourself with a sewing needle. It's not painful at all. Take for somebody that has experience with being bit with the rosy boa and sand boas. They can live to be 25 or more years old. So please keep that in mind, that with all these snakes, it will be a lifelong commitment for these guys. Don't just get them and be like, oh, well, they're living too long. I can understand if you guys hit a snag in life and say, hey, I just can't care for it no more. I don't want to neglect it. And you find somebody that has experience with that snake, then do rehome it if you have to. But please don't take on this responsibility if you're not ready to give that kind of commitment to a pet. They can live in a 10-gallon to a 20-gallon enclosure. 20-gallon is mainly recommended because they have more room to move. I recommend bigger. Like I always say, and will always say with all snakes, the more room they have, the better off they're going to be. They are especially known to be escape artists. Do not drop your guard with these guys. You leave just the smallest crack, even if you're going to change their water bowl, to change out their water. Please remember, you leave the smallest crack in their enclosure, in their lid or in their doors, they will find their way out of that enclosure. And they will do it quickly. So please keep that in mind. I would recommend having a lid on it, not just one of those little screen lids that you set on top. Get a locking lid. Like with Patty's enclosure, I'll show you more whenever I get into the ball pythons with her. With her lid, I have there's two little spots on it where I can open it. I can slide it open. There's a spot where I can put a little pin that's made especially for it, where I can put a lock on it to where she can't slide that open whenever she gets large enough. If you have the doors on the front of your enclosure, there's a little spot on the little door handles that has a hole. Put a lock on there. Please keep your enclosure secure for your snakes. These guys are escape artists. They will find their way out. If you have that issue of your snake getting out, look behind your dryer, behind your refrigerator. I found a snake once in a dryer, in the back of it, underneath the drum. They look for the warm places to go. I just had somebody on one of the Facebook groups I'm in mention their snake got out. Lo and behold, their snake was underneath the enclosure, hiding because of the warmth. Yeah, it was warm inside the enclosure, but it wanted to be out. So keep that in mind. They will go to warm spots. They usually travel along your wall for the least resistance path they can find to get around. Stay tuned for the next one. Like I said, this is a 2-part video. We're going to talk about the best lizards for beginners. If there's anything in particular you want to talk about, like a specific species of snake or frog, comment below. Let me know and I will mention it. Or I will do a series just on that species for you and for everyone else to learn about that species. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get alerts whenever we do new videos. Please be patient with us. We are having internet issues, so the videos are taking longer to upload, but we will get them out as soon as we can. And like I said, check us out on Facebook, AIR Reptile Rescue. Comment there, send me a message there, comment on my YouTube channel, and I will reply to you as soon as I can. So we're actually going to wrap this one up for right now, guys. We will see y'all next time, and good night from Patty and I.